Anyway, I'm starting my class. So today we are going to discuss about data integration and transformation. If possible, we'll also discuss about data reduction if time permits. So this is a concept from the data pre-processing. So pre-processing is done before the data is loaded into the data warehouse. Okay. So before the data could be loaded into the data warehouse, pre-processing will be done. So in that we have discussed about data cleaning. So data cleaning is one of the steps, pre-processing steps, and now data integration and transformation. And then comes the data reduction. So today we are going to start our concept on data integration and transformation. So what do you mean by data integration? So data integration is nothing but combining the data. And here in data warehouse, the combining of the data will be done to the data that is brought from multiple different and heterogeneous sources which are not similar. Okay, so data integration means the combining of the data from different sources, from multiple sources into a coherent store, into one particular store. So different varieties will be organized in one place. So what is this integration? How does the data integration is done is nothing but a dot customer id is equal to b dot customer id, which means that customer id, whatever the for example, you are going to retrieve the customer id from two different places. So they will be denoted. These two are the two attributes, a and b are the two attributes which are trying to be similar. In what way? Both are similar to each other, which means that both A and B are the attributes which will store the customer ID. So, different from different sources, the data will be loaded. So, in this particular schema integration, we may have the problem called entity identification problem. Here, look at this. Here, the real world entities from multiple data sources. There is a problem arising in order to identify the data from multiple sources, real world entities. One will be storing the data in one particular format and the other one will be storing it in another format. The meaning of the data may be the same, isn't it? So data integration problem. The integration problem mainly is nothing but entity identification problem, which is also denoted as schema integration. Here, the customer ID. In one particular attribute, the customer ID, it is stored as customer ID. And whereas in another attribute, it may be stored, it may be denoted with this particular hash symbol, no, denoting that it is a numerical value. Customer ID is a value. Okay. So let us see in detail what is this entity identification problem. There are number of issues to consider during the data integration, and this schema integration problem is that due to the object matching, which is a tricky process. So how can equivalent real world data entities, one second, someone is joining. Okay, how can real world entities or how can equivalent real world entities from multiple data sources may be matched up? So how in which way you are going to match the processes? What is the thing you are doing in order to match them up? This is called entity identification problem. So for example, the data analyst or the computer, how both of them will be sure that the customer ID in one database and the customer number in another database refer to the same values, or refer to saying that they store the same values. This is the problem here we are having. See, customer ID, P customer number. So here I am saying this particular attribute stores the customer ID values, whereas here I am telling customer number. How can I be sure that these two are same? And here, identify real world entities from multiple data sources. Here, example Bill Clinton and William Clinton. See, both are having the second name as Clinton. So, how can you be sure that this is Bill Clinton only? Okay. So, this is the problem that arises with the data integration. So, the Bill Clinton and the William Clinton. So, though they are having the two similar, what do we call, second names, we cannot say both of them belong to the same uh, person, isn't it? So, each of them will be two different persons. So, how will you be sure that this Clinton and that Clinton, Bill Clinton and William Clinton are a similar person? The details that we acquire from different databases will be holding the same person's information. So, this is a entity identification problem that will be arised. Okay. Next, detecting and resolving data value conflicts. So there is another problem here. Identifying and detect, first identifying, then detecting, then resolving. So this identifying, then detecting and resolving these conflicts is another problem in the data integration. So what is it? For the same real world entity, attribute values from different sources are different. Same real world entity. Because same real world entity, I may say here this is the customer ID, but someone else is calling as customer number. If I say customer ID, it can be a string type of attribute which can store both numbers and text. If I say customer number, sometimes it can be stored as a numerical data type, and that particular customer number will have only numerical value, which holds some importance. Likewise, there will be difference for the same real world entity. Attribute values from different sources are different. The values will be different from different sources. What are the possible reasons for this? Different representations, different scales, like metrics in, for example, I want to calculate the weight, or I want to calculate the height of the person. Some of them will be storing the height information in the form of centimeters. Some of them will be storing the height details in the form of feet. Usually in India, we'll be using the metric called feet, 5 feet, 6 feet, say 5.5, 6.5, 6.2. This is what feet, the metrics or measurement that we use in order to measure the height of a person is in the form of feet. Whereas in the generally worldwide, the metric that is used in order to calculate the height is centimeters, isn't it? So it differs. One particular, when you take height as a attribute, height will be storing the same value, the height of the person, but in different metrics. This is the problem. Here, whenever the weight is to be calculated, generally we may be using the metric, whereas some of the European countries will use British units because it is Europe. They will use British units in order to identify the weight, whereas we will use the metrics. So this is the difference we identify when data is integrated from multiple sources. Sometimes the same attribute will be storing different values. So this is the biggest problem that has to be resolved. So first you have to identify, then detect, then resolve. This is the biggest task. Next, how do you handle the redundancy of data? This is another problem. Handling the redundancy in data. Another biggest problem. What is redundancy? Redundancy is nothing but duplicate of data. Redundancy is nothing but duplicate data. How does this duplication arises with the data? Duplicate. What is this duplicate problem? Why does this arise? Because when data is brought from multiple sources, these are the sources from where the data is brought. When it is brought into one single database, what happens? The database should be little quicker because this is the biggest data warehouse. So when it is brought from different sources, sometimes all of them will be having the employee number. Okay. Sometimes what happens? The same attribute or object have different names in different databases. Here I may say ENO. Here I may say EMP, NO. Or here I may say simply NO number. So since it is an employee database, I will be telling here it will definitely have an employee number and it will be as a used as a primary key, or it will definitely be having an employee number with which you can identify an employee, not with the name. What happens? Employee number, employee number, employee number, but each of them are named differently. So object identification problem, because same attribute with different names. Next, another problem is derivable data, which means that the data, that attribute that is stored in one particular table will be derived by another attribute. So in one particular table or in one particular database, that attribute, one attribute may be derived attribute, whereas in the other table the attribute will be a normal attribute. Derived attribute means, like if I say age, the attribute age is a derived attribute, we say. Where is it derived? It is derived from date of birth, because if I know your date of birth, I can say how old are you. I can define your age. If I say the person is born in 2000, if the person is born in 2000, date of birth is some so and so 2000, then what will be the age attribute? If he is born in 2000, now he will be 20 years old. So, based on the date of birth, I am deriving the age. Can anyone respond? Am I audible? Anyone there?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, the date of birth is the attribute from which age is derived. That is why age is a derived attribute. Likewise, the attributes that is stored in different tables or different databases. Sometimes one particular attribute may be a derived attribute, whereas in other places it is not a derived attribute. So that is another problem for the data integration and for the redundancy generation. Okay, so redundant attributes may be able to be detected by correlation analysis. What is this correlation analysis? We will see. Correlation analysis is nothing but we will try to identify the relationship between two attributes with a method. When you find any identity relationship between the attributes, we will try to use only one set of the attributes. That particular values, one set of the values will be used to ignoring the other set. So in that way, we can reduce the redundancy. In that way, we can reduce the redundancy and handle the redundancy process, and data will be integrated only one set of data will be integrated into the data warehouse. So, so redundant attributes may be able to be detected by the correlation analysis and careful integration of the data from multiple sources. This careful integration may help and reduce or avoid redundancies and inconsistencies and improve mining speed and quality. So careful integration should be done. So this careful integration can be done only when you identify the inconsistencies, redundancies, or errors that exist with the data, and then detect them and remove them, eliminate them. Okay, so now let us discuss about correlation analysis. Correlation analysis is done with the numerical data. So there will be a correlation coefficient. Here you see A and B are the two attributes. So for one particular row, we are taking two attributes. Okay, two attributes are taking, and here apply this formula here. Here A is nothing but the tuple, B is another tuple. So if I am taking age, A uh, one particular table's age, another particular table's age. Both of them will be compared here. In this comparison, we will try to find out the correlation between them. Okay. So now what we will do? This is A is the attribute, B is another attribute. Both of them we will be considering them. Both of them will be storing the same values. They are of same attributes from two different tables. And A dash, B dash are nothing but their respective means. A's mean is A dash, B's mean is B dash. Whereas this N is nothing but the total number of tuples. Total number of tuples we are going to compare for this A and B. Okay? And this sigma A and sigma B, which means that sigma A is the standard deviation of A, attribute A. Sigma B is nothing but the standard deviation of attribute B. So, by applying this formula, either this or this, simplification of this formula, by applying this formula, if the resultant value RAB, R to the base A, comma B, if RAB is greater than 0, they are positively correlated. If RAB is equal to 0, there is no correlation, they are independent. If RAB is less than 0, which means that there is no correlation. They are negatively correlated. So if R is greater than RAB is greater than 0, there is a positive correlation. Next, RAB is equal to 0, they are independent. They are two different attributes. If it is less than 0, there is a negative correlation. This is what we are going to identify with the correlation analysis. So there is another method called chi-square test. In this chi-square test, what do we do? In this chi-square test, what do we do is that there will be observed data and there will be expected data. Okay, this is the formula. Chi-square is equal to sigma of observed minus expected to the whole square divided by expected value. If the larger the chi-square value, the larger the variables, the more the variables are related. So this correlation does not imply causality because the number of hospitals and the number of cars theft in a city are correlated. How do you identify their correlation? If both of them are related to the population. Okay. So if number of hospitals and number of car thefts are considered as in order to identify their correlation, when their correlation becomes the same, when only both are related to the population variable. Another third variable, population variable. Otherwise, they are not related to each other. Okay. So here an example is discussed is chi-square test. So in this chi-square calculation, we are having play chess, not play chess, like science and fiction, not like science and fiction. And here the sum of the column, and here sum of the row. So here, within the brackets, what are you having within the parenthesis is nothing but these are the expected values. So here what are we saying? Observed minus expected. So here whatever is written in between the parentheses, within the parentheses are nothing but the expected values, whereas the remaining which are not within the brackets are denoted as the okay. Now what are we going to do? We are going to identify whether this expected value and the observed value, based on the expected value and the observed value, we are going to find out what is the chi-square value. So here chi-square calculation will be done. Here the person who like fiction and play chess are to be observed to be 250, whereas here 90 members are identified to be how they are expected to be liking the science fiction and playing chess, whereas here the science fiction, those who do not like science fiction and play chess, they are identified to be 50 members. This is the observed value, whereas 210 is the expected value for the persons who will be not liking the science fiction along with they play the chess. So likewise here the total is for the what do we say, columns. This will give the observed value. 300 is the observed value, whereas this 1200 is observed value of the corresponding values, whereas 450 is the expected value. This is the expected value, whereas 1050 is also the expected value, and this is the sum of both. The sum of both is 1500. So totally there are 1500 numbers, from which you have to identify how many of them will be liking chess, how many of them liking science fiction along with they play chess, and how many of them liking science fiction and but do not play the chess. Likewise, so that's what we have to identify here. Next, here the chi-square test is calculated. Here, what is the formula? Observed value minus expected value to the whole square divided by expected value. So the sum of observed minus expected to the whole square divided by expected. So we are going to sum all of them. So first 250 minus 90 by whole to the whole square 90. Again 50 minus 210 to the whole square divided by 210. 200 minus 360 to the whole square divided by 360. And again 1000 minus 840 to the whole square divided by 840. And when you simplify this particular values, we will get the value 507.93, which shows that the persons who like science fiction and play chess are correlated. So who like science fiction and play chess are correlated. This particular value are correlated because this value is close to this. Okay. Next, this is the third important issue that exists with the data integration. What does this third important issue denotes? That when the data is integrated from the same real world entity, attribute values from different sources may differ due to differences in representation or scaling or encoding. So actually this concept we have discussed here. See British metrics, and here we are seeing possible reasons are British metrics and other metrics. If the one who is trying to calculate, if he is using a different metrics other than British units, then there will be a difference. That is what in detail we discussed here. So, it's same real world entity, attribute values may be storing different values. So, weight attribute metric units, one will be using the normal metric units, whereas the other one is British imperial units. So, what happens when matching attributes from one database to another during integration? Special attention must be paid to the structure of the data. What structure the data is, based on that the integration should be done. So careful integration can help to reduce the and avoid the redundancies. Another, since we are here, I want to discuss another example here other than this weight example, weight attribute. Consider a hotel chain. If there is a chain of hotels, uh, like um, the hotel chain of hotels which will be existing in different countries. In India, there is one hotel, and in the same way, in Europe, like in London, there is another hotel. It is a chain of hotels belong to the same person. So now what happens? The type of services that are offered between these two hotels may differ, because in India, you may provide breakfast, the package that the hotel is offering for a person who is going to lodge in the hotel. The package that is offered by Indian hotel may be different from the UK hotel, and also the prices and the money. The money in India, it is calculated in rupees, in their euros. Like different formats will be there, though the it is a chain of hotels, but the type of data that is stored will be different. So that can be taken another example for the data integration issues, where same real world entity attribute values from different sources will differ differently. Okay, so this is what about data integration. And now let us discuss about data transformation. What do you mean by data transformation? Transformation is nothing but conversion, change, changing into the appropriate way. So the transformation can be done. There are more than three data transformation techniques. First one is smoothing. Smoothing can be done by removing the noise from the data. Whereas aggregation is nothing but summarization of the data, or data cube construction is another property of the data aggregation. Next, generalization. Generalization is nothing but, in generalization, lower level, low level or primitive data are replaced by the high level concepts through the use of concept hierarchies. For example, categorical attributes like street can be generalized to higher level concepts like city or country. Generally, in our whenever we give the address, if you identify in our local application forms, like when we try to fill out the application form for the um, state level job, we will have street number and then street name, door number, it is common, and again city name, then district, then state. So these are all the fields that we need to fill. If I say, if I am filling an application national level or international level, all these details will be replaced by one or two attributes. What is that? Either it will be city or state. Or if it is not city, it can be replaced with district. So district and state will be replaced by that. So in generalization, concept hierarchy is applied is nothing but lower level. All these lower level details will be replaced with the higher level details. I hope you understood that. Okay. The street name, street number, next city, um, this district and state, and then country. All these things will be replaced by simple values. That is called lower level values will be replaced by higher values like state, city city or district. So city or district, state and country, three individual fields, that's all. That denotes the address of the person. So likewise, through generalization, we will try to reduce the data. So this is called concept hierarchy climbing. Okay. For example, I can give you another example. If I say age, the age of the person has to be written rather than writing the age of the person from 1 to, I think, approximately 100 or 110 years a person can live up to as per the present situation. So rather than writing 1 to 1000, 1 to 110, we can simply say whenever the age can be derived into uh, three fields like youth, middle age, and senior citizen. So I will put some conditions here. Youth should be below 35, and from above 35 to remaining, it will be middle aged, and senior will be from above 60. He will be senior citizen. So likewise, I will divide the age groups into three different groups. That can also be denoted as the generalization concept. Okay. Next, normalization. This normalization process is nothing but the attribute data are scaled to fall within a small or specified range. So we will give the range. Min max normalization, Z score normalization, normalization by decimal scaling. We will say min max normalization and Z score scaling, Z score normalization. Whereas normalization by decimal scaling is nothing but we will try to define the range of values within which that data should fall by cutting their edges. So how we will do that, we will see in detail. The range for the minimum maximum value will be given. Z score has to be discussed in detail. Normalization by decimal scaling. Decimal scaling is nothing but if there is any decimal point, we will try to cut the edges of those decimal points. Reduce the size of the decimal scaling. Next, another one is attribute or feature construction. So if there is a set of attributes, new set of attributes are constructed from the existing set of attributes for our convenience. So new features are constructed in order to make it in a convenient form for our understanding. Okay. So this is what data transformation. These are the methods that are involved in the data transformation. Let us discuss about the data transformation process that is called normalization. So first let us discuss about the min-max normalization. So min-max normalization, it will perform a linear transformation on the original data. linear transformation on the original data. Min-max normalization. Suppose we are having that min A and max A. This is the min A and this is the max A. Okay, these are the minimum values and the maximum values of a given set of attribute values. So if I say age is having of different values. Age will be storing different values 10, 20, 40, 30. Can you see the screen? Can you see the screen?
Yes, ma'am.
The screen is visible to you,
Yes, ma'am.
but I don't see the screen. What is wrong? Let me see. There is some mistake. I cannot see the screen. You still can see the screen.
Yes, ma'am.
నో మ్యామ్ ఇప్పుడు రావట్లేదు మ్యామ్.
మ్యామ్ వస్తుంది.
No, something went wrong. My PPT is gone. Let me present again. I need to load
Okay.
it first. Now can you see?
ఎస్ మ్యామ్.
Yes, ma'am.
ఎస్ మ్యామ్.
Okay.
ఎస్ మ్యామ్.
Okay. This is what. Okay. Data transformation, normalization we are taking. So if I say age is the attribute I am dealing with. Age is storing different values, some 10, 100, some 70. Or let us remove this 100, it is too much. 80, 20, 85. If I say this is the list of attributes, list of uh, ages, ages of the people who are living in one particular place, 85, 65, or 55. Consider these are the number of attributes, the number of values for this particular attribute. So in this, the minimum value is 10, whereas the maximum value is 85. So I will say this is min A, whereas this 85 I will call as max A. Okay, two values, min A and max A, which means that in the selected attribute I'm having the minimum value and maximum value. So I'm going to do my normalization process based on this. When you identify the minimum value, maximum value of the given attribute, there will be a min-max normalization mapping value that is called V or V dash. V of the given attribute value to V map, V dash in the range of minimum A and the maximum A. So this will preserve the relationship among the original data values. So the relationship between the original data values will be preserved by this particular V dash. So it will encounter what are the values that are beyond the bounds of this particular minimum and maximum values. So it will encounter the out of bounds value or the error. If a future input is done, the data that will be beyond this range, minimum value and maximum value, will be eliminated. Okay, so this is the formula that we use for the calculation of this min-max normalization, using which you can identify the erroneous data or the data that do not fall within the range. Usually, this aggregation we know, data cube construction, smoothing we know, generalization is already known. Normalization is the new concept for us. In this normalization, the min-max normalization is carried out like this. Okay, so here what happens? Here the value for the income range is taken between $12,000 to $98,000, and they are normalized to the value 0.0 to 1.0. Generally, this is the normalized value we will use throughout. Okay, next. Then 73,000, 6,000 is the value that has to be mapped. So now what is done here? The formula V is the value that has to be mapped, 73,600, and 12,000 is the least value, whereas 98,000 is the highest value, that is minimum value, and this is the maximum value. So now what is the formula that we have to? New max and new minimum. So new max is 1.0, new minimum is 0.0. This is nothing but generally any value will be normalized to these two ranges, 0.0 to 1.0. Now 73,600 minus 12,000 by max value is 98,000 minus minimum value is 12,000. Okay, then new max is 1.0 minus new min is 0, 0.0 or 0 same, plus new minimum value. Since it is 0, always it will be 0.0 to 1.0 only, 0. Then according to the calculation, we get the value 0.716. So whatever the value that we have obtained from here, so any value that is considered or for the data integration or for the data transformation, this min-max normalization, it will preserve these original values, and if any value that is beyond this particular 0.716 will be eliminated, considering it is the erroneous value. Okay, next, second one is z-score normalization. Z-score normalization is nothing but here we will use the mu and sigma, which means mu stands for mean and sigma stands for deviation. Suppose that the minimum maximum values for the attribute income, here we are using 12,000 and 98,000 minimum and maximum values. So here we would like to map income to the range same 0.0 to 1.0. So the total income that we have considered in the min-max problem, min-max normalization, is 73,600. So the z-score normalization, same thing. The z-score normalization is also applied using the same values which are used in the min-max normalization. Or you can also call z-score normalization. We can also call it as zero mean normalization. So the values in this particular zero mean normalization, the values for an attribute A are normalized based on the mean and standard deviation. So here we are taking the attribute value income. Okay, like we have taken in the min max, here also we are taking in z-score also we are taking income. So for this income, the normalization is done based on the mean and deviation. A value V is nothing but the mapped, supposed to be mapped value, that is 73,600. Same V dash is calculated in order to identify the normalized value for the given income. Okay, so a value B of A is normalized to V dash by computing this particular V dash is equal to V minus mu A divided by sigma A. So here, as you all know that mean and standard deviation, mu is nothing but the mean, whereas this is the standard deviation. So V is nothing but 73,600 mu standard mean value of the incomes that have been collected for the particular attribute. There are a list of attributes values. For this list of values, the mean is identified to be 54,000. So the mapped value and the mapped income and the 54,000 divided by standard deviation. Whatever the standard deviation value for these income values, it is identified to be 16,000. So divide them and the value is identified to be 1.225, which means that this method of normalization is useful only when the actual minimum and maximum of attributes are unknown. If you do not actually know the uh, attribute minimum maximum values, then you can apply. Or if you do know the minimum and maximum values, better go for the minimax normalization. If only when you are not aware, then only better go for Z score. Okay. Or it can also be used for when there are when there are outliers. Outliers are nothing but the values which are not we are given specified range. So if it is 12,000 minimum value, 98,000 maximum value, if I happen to find another value 101,000, it will be considered as the outlier, the value beyond that range. Or below this, if I happen to have 10,000 income, this is also an outlier. So value within the range will be considered as the proper value. For the values that is beyond the given specified range, then it is called as an outlier. So when there are outliers that are dominating this particular range, then we can use the Z-score normalization. Okay. Then the last concept is normalization by decimal scaling. So normalization by decimal scaling is nothing but, see here we are seeing 0.716, 1.226 is nothing but these are the values, normalized values. So this normalization will be done. So the data is converted into a specific value. Whenever it is compared retrieved from multiple sources, this transformation. So one common metric will be used to compare them. So any data, any kind of data that is retrieved will have to be converted into this particular format. Okay. So another normalization process is nothing but normalization by decimal scaling. So if there are normalization by decimal scaling is nothing but it will normalize by moving the decimal points of values of this particular attribute A. The number of decimal points moved depends on the maximum absolute value of A. Okay, a value V of A is normalized by using this particular formula. It is based on the how many decimal points the normalization process has to be done. It is dependent on the maximum absolute value. Whatever the absolute value is there, the maximum absolute value will decide to how many points it has to be normalized. How many points the decimal scaling has to be done. Okay. So here 10 power j. J is the smallest integer such that V dash is less than 1. p dash should be less than 1. That is nothing but the normalization, as I said, should be between 0.0 to 1.0. Below 1.0. Here the range is given as 0 to 1.0, but actually this p dash should be between 0 to 1.0, less than 1.0. Okay, so what will be done? Suppose that we are having the values between the range 986 986 minus 986 and 917. Okay, so the maximum absolute value, this is negative 986, you know that, 986. So the maximum absolute value is supposed to be 986. Consider. So in order to apply the normalization by decimal scaling, apply the normalization by decimal scaling, we know it is to how many points the decimal scaling has to be done is depended on the maximum absolute value we are saying. So I am telling this is the maximum absolute value 986. So what do? We divide each value, whatever the value we obtain here, each value will be divided by 1000, because I said the range should be between 0.0 to some 1.0, less than 1.0. The range, or as always I said, 0.0 to less than 1.0. This should be the range. When it has to be the range, here 986 we are having, it has to be divided by 1000, since it is a three digit value. So every value that we obtain, we divide it by 1000. When you divide it by 1000, what is the j value? J will be is equal to 3, because 3 digits are there. It will be divided into 3 digits. So now what 986 minus 986 will become? Minus 0.986 will be the value. And this 917 will be normalized to 0.917, satisfying the condition 0.0 to 1.0. Okay, and here it is not written there. Let me discuss about the attribute or feature construction also. In this attribute or feature construction, new attributes are constructed from the given attributes. So they will be, why new attributes are constructed is in order to improve the accuracy of our understanding or the structure of the data, so that the user who is going to use the data will improve his knowledge over the data that he is using. Okay, for example, we may wish to add the attribute area based on the height and width. Okay, so by combining the attributes construction can discover missing information about the relationship between the data attributes and can be useful for knowledge discovery. So this is all about the today's class. If you have any doubts, you can ask. Manasa, did you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Charishma, are you there?
Ma'am.
Did you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Are there any doubts to any one of you? Lokesh? Okay, then if you don't have any doubts, you can leave the class. Thank you.